Hello and welcome to a special edition live from one of the Senate courtyards at Parliament House on what's been yet another tumultuous day in federal politics. Julia Gillard has been re-elected as leader of the Labor Party and she keeps her job as Prime Minister by a resounding margin of 71 votes to 31. If Michelle Rowlands, a Labor MP who's just given birth, had been in town, it would have been 72 votes to 31. Kevin Rudd says he will go to the backbench because he's resigned as Foreign Minister and work for the re-election of Julia Gillard and the Labor government, and he intends to put his name forward for re-election at the next election. There has been another resignation today, though. The Assistant Treasurer, Mark Arbib, someone who's played a long role in factional politics in the ALP, has resigned both for the good of his family and the good of his party. Joining me to discuss the day's events are Labor MP Stephen Jones and Liberal MP John Alexander. Welcome to you both.
Good afternoon.
Stephen, I have to ask you this question. There's a lot of talk about unity and rebuilding the party. Mark Arbib has said he's resigned to help the party heal and said it will take time for the party to heal. Will it take time? Instant unity isn't possible, is it?
Look, the best way to get unity, and as far as I'm concerned, heal, is to get out there and perform. And the best way to perform is for us to get out there and expose the patent weaknesses in the opposition. I mean, here you've got Tony Abbott leading an opposition for nearly 2 years and not one new policy in the field. So that's our job, and we'll be out there explaining that day after day and standing on our excellent record of creating jobs and managing the economy.
I was about to say, don't you have to do more than just attack the opposition, but explain your own policies, sell your own policies better to the electorate and implement them well?
Day in, day out, I'm doing that in my electorate. Over 700,000 new jobs created since we came to office, rolling out the national broadband network, reinvesting in school education and hospitals, almost doubled the amount of rail infrastructure in the country, that is reinvesting and replacing the rail infrastructure in this country. This stuff's unheard of before. We're filling in the gaps that have been left by the previous government, and we have an opposition that thinks it can skate into government by just sitting there saying no, 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 no. Well, we're going to expose them for that.
John Alexander, while the last few days and weeks have provided your next campaign team with plenty of material to use, and indeed the opposition, the coalition, used a lot of material. The Labor Party has provided them in question time today. Now the Labor Party is no longer looking internally. Does that spell a bit of danger for the coalition, that if they come after you with the same ferocity that Tony Abbott's been going after them, it makes the contest tougher?
If they come after us with the same ferocity that they've been going after each other, then we might have a contest. But look, it doesn't come to news to any Australian that this is a party in conflict. They are dysfunctional by their own words. What Kevin unfortunately has said about Julia and Julia has said about Kevin shows very, very deep divisions. This is not a marriage now that is going to result in the parties living happily ever after. The only thing that we've had today is a selection. That's what we've had previously when the independents chose to support Julia Gillard, or when the factions have selected somebody. Our side would much rather have an election.
But in the end, though, the party says it's uniting. There have been plenty of leadership contests in the past, including in your own party. Tony Abbott got the leadership by just one vote, yet the party reunited. It's not outside the realms of possibility, is it, that the Labor Party can reunite?
Oh, come on, you've been watching this for the last couple of weeks. This is so far away from unity and a happy little group. In the time that I have been in Parliament, our team is united. In fact, since we lost the election, it is as if our team had won. We have great people in the right position. Malcolm has performed admirably in opposing the NBN for what it is, which is a massive and wasteful infrastructure project. There are better ways of achieving a very similar result. Tony has been outstanding in his role as an opposition leader that has destroyed this government to show them up for what they are.
Competent economic managers have created 700,000 new jobs with over 300 pieces of legislation through a hung parliament. I think that's a pretty good record in anyone's language. Interest rates are lower now than they were when we took office, and yet this mob here that John represents, and he's doing a good job, go in there day after day carping about, there's a crack in the carpet or something like that. The fact is, 2 years in opposition, not one new policy, and the reason for that, they don't have the firepower on their side. I mean, Tony Abbott looks behind him on his backbench and he sees Malcolm Turnbull, who wants his job, and not one backbencher who can come up with a policy in 2 years.
John, I'll let you
I would like to answer that. We weren't invited to come prior to a barbecue with butcher's paper and a pencil. Our group, which has been one of the most satisfying parts of being in Parliament, have been divided through a structure into units to develop policies, and we are seriously developing policies. They get passed up through a structure where they're revised, examined, scrutinised, challenged, and we are developing policies very, very well, and when it is appropriate, these policies will be released.
Stephen, I've asked a couple of people this question today. You haven't really found a way yet to beat Tony Abbott, have you?
Look, I think we're beating him when it comes to having the policies which are in the best interests of this country. Pretty soon people are going to be looking at Tony Abbott and saying, well, what comes after the word no, mate? Have you got a policy that doesn't begin with the words John Howard or the word no? And people are going to get pretty sick of that, and they're going to be starting to look at him and say, well, you want to be the next Prime Minister of the country, you're calling for an early election, what do you got up your sleeve, mate? And the answer's not much at all.
But John, do you accept that the opposition needs to start rolling out some positive policies? Do you need to at some stage shift the message?
Yes, absolutely, and that has to happen when it is appropriate, when there is an election call.
And Stephen, we'll just have a check of those division bells to see which one.
It's not ours.
Oh. It's the other house, so that's fine. Stephen, the task for the Labor Party, isn't it, to not only be united towards the next election, but really for all ministers to perform? It's not just on Julia Gillard's shoulders, is it?
Absolutely. We've got a strong front team, and they all have to take the front bench, and they all have to take the ball up. Look, if anything good, not as far as I'm concerned, not much good comes of having the sort of week like we had last week. But everyone is looking on at that in great horror and saying, well, we don't need to go back there. Our job is to govern. Our job is to roll out the policies, get behind the Prime Minister, and have every one of our, whether on the front bench or not, taking the ball up and selling our achievements and talking about our prescriptions for the future. And that's what we're all focused on.
John, do you think the opposition front bench is performing at its peak?
I think they're doing a wonderful job. I mean, the facts are that you might talk about the achievements of the government, but one of their achievements that they're less willing to talk about is the record amount of debt that they've incurred in chasing policies that weren't only not good, but then wastefully implemented. And whether you look at pink bats, which is just a shocker, in bad idea, badly implemented, wastefully implemented, school halls exactly the same. I go to school halls all over our electorate where I can value a building, and I can tell you that this building, a outdoor covered area, should cost about $500 a square metre. The rest of the place should have cost about $2,200 a square metre, and they paid more than $5,000 or $6,000 a square metre, which is just a huge waste.
You're not necessarily arguing that all the buildings were bad. It's just a portion of the money that was spent on them could have been spent better.
Often that wasn't needed. There's a school in our area where they wanted more classrooms and they wanted a library. They were told, no, you'll get a school hall. No, we went back. No, we want more classrooms. We want a library. Where do you want the school hall? And they got it stuck in the middle of their playing field. They have no real use for it. They needed more classrooms. And then the bill was $2,600,000. It should have cost about
We've heard these claims, these charming anecdotes. That's why we had a review. Less than 2% of the projects had a problem. And I haven't been to a school where they haven't been delighted. But we're going to have this debate somewhere else because we've just had a division.
Thank you very much.
The 2% must be in Bennelong.
A short in time, both of you gentlemen have to unplug your microphones and run off to a division. Of course, it is a parliamentary sitting day, and as such, John, we'll just hand that microphone over so you can run off. As such, the